Hi, everyone. Good evening. Let's start the webinar now. First of all, welcome, Aditi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Um, let us start the webinar. I hope you're ready to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's be honest. Festivals are a free pass to overeat. But here's a fun twist. What if I told you that some of these festival foods aren't just delicious, but also surprisingly good for you? In today's webinar, we'll explore how traditional festival foods can be both indulgent and healthy. Welcome back to another episode of On Charities Wellness Wednesday. I'm Chandana and I'm your host for today. I'm excited to introduce our speaker for the session, Aditi Prabhu. Welcome, Aditi. Aditi is a clinical dietitian and a nutritionist with over 14 years of experience, specializing in gut, hormone, and mental health. She is passionate about sustainability and emphasizes the use of wild, local, and seasonal produce. She is an expert in food and nutrition and has a master's in dietetics and food service management and an MBA in healthcare. Certified in nutrigenomics and mental health nutrition. Aditi's aim is to empower clients on their health and wellness journey. Today, she'll be speaking on the topic when delicious meet nutritious on festivals. So let's dive in and discover how we can enjoy festive foods without compromising on health. Over to you, Aditi.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm welcome. Very good evening to everybody who's made time on a busy midweek and they've made time to be here and to listen to this seminar. I give a warm welcome out to you, and I promise you this session is going to be fun, interactive, educative, and you're going to take back some good food for thought points. So let's get started with it. But I have a request. I love to keep the sessions interactive and fun. So please make sure that you make use of the polls that are going to come up, the chat box that is there. Keep your questions ready because there's a question answer session. But just most important, just interact. And on that note, we are going to start our session with some interaction. So I want to know a little bit about you, and that is why I'm starting up with a couple of polls. And what we are going to do is the first poll for the day. My first question for you is, do you think nutritious food can be delicious? I believe you can see the poll on your site and you can just click in your votes. My clients feel nutritious food is usually ghaspoos or it's too boring and bland. Let me see what you all think. Interesting. I see a very varied reaction here. Lovely. Do we wait a couple of more seconds for people to vote a little bit more? I see a lot of yes, and I see sometimes. Very smart people who choose sometimes. Should I wait, Chandna, a little more for the poll to happen?
Wait for a minute or two, maybe.
Interesting. Nobody said nutritious food is never delicious.
Yeah.
That's usually the first thing I get. It's not delicious. It's boring.
Who
What do
will
you
say
think?
no to Puran Polis and Modaks or whatever food it is?
Absolutely. Interesting. So, should I move to the next question now?
Yeah, sure.
My next question to you is, do you think delicious food is nutritious? Now, your delicious could be absolutely different from mine. It could be a samosa, it could be a sandwich, it could be a dosa. It could be anything. So you need to be honest and tell me, do you think delicious food is nutritious? Delicious basically means it's tasty. It tastes nice. It tastes good. And do you think such food can be nutritious? Oh, I love the people who are just clicking on. I just think it's calorie overload, but I love it. You all are honest. Amazing. But let's see who's answering never and always, because there's always so many sides to that question. I'm going to give you a couple of more seconds to answer that. It helps me to understand your views and tailor the session as per y'all. So please do vote. I do agree. The audience is super mature, but it's okay. It's food. You don't need to be. You can be as honest as you can with it.
I think all are voting for it's just calorie overloaded, but loved it.
Thank you for voting this. Now we move to our last. That's my last question, I promise. The last question is, do you think festival food is nutritious or delicious?
You can choose both.
Actually, can choose both. I see people have already started using the chat box and the Q&As. Amazing. Please do that. Mostly for the last answer, I'm getting the answer that everyone agrees that festival food is delicious. Some do think it's nutritious. Now, this session is mainly for the people who think it's only delicious and not nutritious. Okay. But I am going to make sure that everyone else also gets covered. So, a big thank you to everybody who participated in the poll. We are now going to start with our session. That means I am going to start talking and you need to listen. But please interrupt me with your chats, with your questions and queries. Rachna, could you please change the slide? India is a land of diversity. We have a lot of religions, cultures, customs, traditions. And I think that is what makes us so unique and so beautiful. And because of all this diversity, if you notice, there's throughout the year, we are celebrating some or the other festival. And these festivals center around food. So food is an integral part of these festivals. Food is a way to celebrate these festivals. Personally, I feel we celebrate food through the festivals. But then that's a matter of perspective. You can see and believe whatever you want to. But ultimately, through these festivals, we display the vibrant food culture that we have in India. It could be the Tirgus at Makar Sankrant, to the Puran Polis, or to the Modak. And when you're looking at this food not just signifies the festival, it also signifies the season, the culture, the nature. And that is what it makes it so unique and so beautiful. If you look at Indian festivals, especially right from the start of the year, what you see is Makar Sankrant, the Pongal, Ugadi, that starts in early January. It marks the end of winters and a beginning of a new season. If you see the main ingredients in most of the cuisine at that time, it's sesame, it's jaggery, it's coconut, it's lentil and rice. All these ingredients are available in that particular season. They have their own nutritional benefits, which are important in that season. And that is how we celebrate that festival. So we are not just celebrating it through food, but we are celebrating the festival nutritiously. Same way, we move ahead. We have a Holi where we have Puran Polis, which are made with chana dal and jaggery. We then have something called as the Lent in Catholics, the Ramzan, the Shravan, where there is different ways of fasting that is done. We then have the Ganesh Chaturthi, which we are going through right now and celebrating all across India, where we have a delicious spread of lovely dishes and, of course, the Modak. We also have the Onam coming up, where there are over 30 plus dishes that are cooked and celebrated. They are served as sadhya. Then comes Diwali. So if you see every festival, there is one ingredient or maybe sometimes a couple of them which are celebrated. And that's why I say, I think we celebrate food through festivals more than festivals through food, right? We're now going to move on to see the next slide. So why do I say delicious meets nutritious at these festivals? While there is one side, we have the media, which portrays only certain aspects of festival. There is much more to a festival. Since right now we are in middle of Ganesh Chaturthi, I'm going to more focus on Ganesh Chaturthi and the upcoming Onam festival. So when it comes to Ganesh Chaturthi, most people only know Modak. Very few know that along with the Modak, we also have the Nevedyam Thali. If you see the Prasad Thali or the Nevedyam Thali, it has rice, it has dal, it has lentil, it has the seasonal vegetable, it has some pickles, some raita, and some delicious modak as a part of the meal. It is not the center of the meal. Though this modak is something that we serve to Lord Ganesha, because it makes him happy, it's a part of the main meal. It is super nutritious, made with the season special local rice, which is taken in the unpolished form, washed, grinded into powder, and it's then made into flour. After the flour is made, it's stuffed with coconut and jaggery and then steamed and served. That too, the steaming is done on something called as the turmeric leaves. These turmeric leaves are specially available only in this season. Now, modak is just one part. The same dish with the same ingredients in a different form is celebrated down south. It is kozukati. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm not from the south. They have similar dumplings with rice, with a filling of coconut and jaggery inside, which is absolutely similar to your modak. So you see, it's not just about modak, it's about the whole prasad and how it is diverse. It has your macros, which is carbohydrates, proteins, fats, fiber. But not just that, there's color, there's texture, there's vibrance, and there are multiple flavors. Same goes for your sadhya. The Onam Sadhya has around 26 to 30 items on your banana leaf. The banana leaf itself is antimicrobial. You have the matta rice, which is served with rasam, sambar, dal. There's the olan, kalan, there is avial. There are different types of pachadis. There are banana chips, banana. There is so much on that plate. It celebrates the nature's produce. that is available in that season post harvest. It celebrates the gods that are in season, the bottle god, the pumpkins. It also celebrates yam. There is banana, which is an integral part of their meal and gives a very nutritious base for everybody working in the fields. There is everything that will tantalize your taste buds in the right sense. It will nourish you not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally, because it is something that we call as comfort food. Now, I'm going to take you to a different side of this delicious meets nutritious. So we are going to move to the next slide. What has happened over time when it comes to these festivals? There has been a lot of evolution. Evolution has happened because our lives have changed. There's globalization. There is more of nuclear families. There is more of changes in terms of people moving out from their homes, their old occupations, and moving out and reaching out to newer professions. So because of which the food culture also has changed a lot. If you go to see just a simple, the Nevedam Thali, how many actually know about the Ganesh Thali? The Prasad Thali is something very few people are even aware of. Yes, food is made. If there is Ganesh Chaturthi at your house, you will definitely know about it. But if it's not, you will only know Modak. What has happened because of modernization is today the families don't live together. These festivals have been a way where community and the society comes together and prepares for the festival together. So when you live in a nuclear family where both the partners are actually working, there's very little time and too much of responsibilities because you want to do things right. You want to do them nutritionally. You want to do them with love, care, and perfection. So what has happened is, like typically everything, we have found our own shortcuts in that process. We, instead of making the modak in the traditional way, with rice flour, jaggery, coconut, we today have moved to shortcuts. We buy a flour from outside. We get grated coconut from outside. We also buy jaggery from outside. Now, most of us don't even know that when you go down and there are 10 shops in a line, every shop is going to have a different quality of jaggery. Jaggery today no longer is rich in iron because it's no longer made in iron vessels. So the kind of modak that was given earlier as tradition today is no longer that nutritious. And in that, we are finding our own shortcuts. Now, apart from this, there is the innovation. I was just looking at what all innovations have come up this year. And there is baklava modak, there is Puran Polis modak, there is chocolate modak, which has been there for years. And then there is all these packed modaks that are coming in. Now, what happens with this is when a classical modak is made, it's somewhere around 100 to 120 calories. But when you're looking at these processed or different innovative modaks, the calories can go up to 200 to 350 calories in one small piece. And you and I, we both know we never stop at one. In fact, if you are somebody who goes on pandal hopping and you keep moving from one house to the other, you are likely to have over a dozen and still not realize how much you've had. Now imagine how many calories you've had if you are getting 200 calories in one modak. Fir to gaya. Game is done. You've had all your calories only in the modak. But that's not it. Calories is one part. What about the ingredients that go in that? There is color, there is preservatives, there is additives. A lot of these newer innovative products have come up with innovative ingredients also. There are isomalts that are going in, high corn fructose syrup that is going in. There is stevia, sucralose, there is FOS that is going in. And with the kind of lifestyle we live today, where there is high stress, there is obesity, there's diabetes, we all are battling some or the other health issue. These kind of ingredients can also impact your gut and mental health. So, what are you actually consuming? So, you need to be very careful when you are opting for these shortcuts. One quick tip that I am going to give at this point is, if you are choosing anything apart from traditional modaks, please make sure you turn the pack, read the ingredients, make informed choices. I also would give you another tip is, at least once in a lifetime, try making the modak the traditional way. You will understand how much efforts, how much love, how much care, and how much focus you need to make those modak right. And once you understand that, you are probably going to be very conscious about the amount of modaks you eat, because anything that you get through hard work is appreciated more than something that you get very easily. Same way for the sadhya. Now, what has happened with the sadhya is, because there are 26 to 30 items made on that plate, most people who are working find it very difficult to make it. Plates have become smaller. People are opting to resource it from outside. They will order it through caterers or through hotels, or even go out to eat the sadhya. Now, when that happens, you have no control on the portion, on the quantity. You don't know the kind of ingredients that have been used. And there will be always the innovation.
Yeah, I think
I'm
now.
sorry.
Yeah, you were not audible in between.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm really sorry
yeah,
about that.
now you are. Now you are. Please continue.
Yeah. So basically, with the sadhya, also the same thing is happening. People are now opting for going outside, having meals outside, having sadhya ordered in from out. People are now ordering all the way sadhya from Pune and down south to Mumbai, because Zomato offers intercity. So that is what is happening. Though there are good parts to it, you will get the authentic taste, but what is happening is the appreciation is not that much. And you are manipulating with what goes in that plate. What needs to be seasonal and local is now becoming a long distance affair. So, yes, the evolution of festivals has made things way too difficult and different. So even if you are somebody who says traditions are important, are we really following all the traditions to the T? Is something that we need to think about. Now we move to the next slide. I think this is something that most people are here for. Generally, when it comes to festivals, what happens is, I have two sets of people. I have one set who's asking me, how do I eat everything? And the other set is, ma'am, I'm not going to come to you because it's a festival season. I'll eat and then come to you. What if I told you there is actually a third category where you can eat everything, still stay fit, be on your health journey, and not feel guilty about it? There is a third way out. But are you ready to actually implement the third way? That is a question you need to ask yourself. Now, if your answer is yes, then these are the 4 basic things that you need to implement for starters. So the first thing that you need to do during festivals is make sure of your portion control. Now, every day, if you eat 2 chapatis and sabzi for lunch, it is somewhere around 300-400 calories, depending on what you are making. But if you are looking at a sadhya could be as high as 2000 calories. That's as simple as portion control. So you normally eat 2 chapatis and you are now eating a sadhya. So see the amount of difference in it. What you want to do is enjoy the sadhya, but make sure it's somewhere in alignment to the normal portions that you consume. So one of the simplest trick that I tell people here is, if you have timings to eat, that you eat breakfast, mid-morning, lunch, stick to that timing. Don't eat in between. Suppose if you're traveling, you're visiting different people's house because it's Ganesh Chaturthi or it's some other festival, carry an empty dabba. You don't need to disrespect people by saying no, and nobody's going to get offended. You can take a little bit of the portion, put it in your dabba and eat it at the time. Now you would say it doesn't feel really nice or it feels very awkward to do that. You have to do something. There is always a price to pay. If you want to stay fit, there is something you need to do. Now, what's the secret behind carrying the dabba is when you collect everything in the dabba and you then open it at your mid-morning meal time, you'll actually realize how much you've collected. Do you really eat that much at that time? Would be your first question. And then automatically the portion control is going to come in order and you won't have to worry too much. Second point is you need to opt for balanced meals. Okay, I have put up the balanced meal chart for you just to make you understand what is the balanced meal I am looking at during festivals. Now you would see I have put half the plate full with vegetables, quarter with protein and quarter with grains. Why am I doing this? Is because if you see most of the festival food that is there, this festival food is more carbohydrate dense. It has a lot of sugar. There is a lot of fat going in. Also, you don't know who cooks how much oil is going. So anyways, you are going to get a generous amount of carbohydrates and sugar in your plate. So what you want to do is balance your meal by opting for more of the vegetables, opt for more of the pachadis, the torans, the olans, the kalans, and make sure that you enjoy those more. Take your protein and last take your carbohydrates. Carbohydrates also opt for whole grains. So if somebody is giving you a matta rice, good job. That's great. But if it's white rice, opt for the rotis. They're still going to be better. Right? White rice is basically polished rice. That means it has no nutrients in it. You want to opt for a whole grain as much as possible. And that's how you will maintain your balance. Remember this pie chart in your head throughout the festival season. This is what is going to help you. Third point is hydration. While moving around, going from place to place, house to house, or taking care of the responsibilities during the festival, one thing that we miss out on is hydration. We drink hardly any water. Anywhere, any person's house you go to, they'll first offer you tea or coffee, or they'll offer you some cold drink. That's not what you want. You want water, because water will make sure that you stay fit, you stay focused, and your appetite is also taken care of. When you are dehydrated, and if you do not understand the thirst and hunger cues, you are likely to consume more of food. And that is not going to be great for your health. The last point is incorporating activities. You need to make sure that there is some sort of activity. Bhale gym chalu na ho, make sure you at least move. Do your walks, do your runs, do a light workout or basic stretches, and they should take care of your health completely during the festival season. So steps matter. Make sure you do your steps and you move as much as possible. Now, Some of the common questions that I get during this festival season are something that I'm going to touch upon next. So if we could have the next slide. Rachna, could you please change the slide? So the first question that I normally get is, do I skip the traditional meal? If the Onam Sadhya is around 2000 to 2500 calories, which I consume through the day, should I be even consuming it? Honestly, you should. You should, because you want to learn your values, your traditions, your culture. You want to understand what is in season. What you could do is avoid certain items in the plate if it's too much for you, like the chips or the fries. You can avoid those. You can reduce the portion of the meals or items that are given on the plate. And like I mentioned before, if it feels too much, ditch the grain, reduce the sweet, make sure the carbohydrates are in control and the rest of the meal is enjoyed very well. So what you could do is, whoever is serving you the sadhya, you can ask them what they are serving and make a choice accordingly. So yes, you can enjoy traditional meals. We move to our next question.
Before we move to the next slide, I have a question over here. I've
Yes.
often seen people, skipping breakfast to have a Onam Sadhya, or, to have a heavy meal in the afternoon. How good is it? Like, people literally skip one breakfast and a dinner and just have one meal.
I think
What are your thoughts on it?
our next question is on the similar lines.
Okay.
It just is probably a continuation to what you have asked. So Rachna, if you could just move it to the next slide, I will still answer your question. A lot of people assume that if I, starve, I can go and eat more. That's not how your body works. When you overeat at one time, you're likely to be having acidity, bloating, gases a little later. Instead, opt for a light fruit breakfast, have your nuts, or probably just do a very light breakfast, but have some breakfast. Don't go empty stomach, especially if you have medical issues. Make sure you eat time to time. And if your blood sugars are not in control, eating becomes very important. Overeating is not something we encourage. The next question that we have is also on the similar lines. It's all about, should I skip a meal if I have the sadhya or a heavy meal? So, Rachna, if you could change the slide, it would be great. Okay, that's probably the third question. So I'll go there first to the third question and come back here, because it's there in the questions. I've put it there. So answering that is, just like you can't skip a meal and go and directly have lunch, you don't want to have a heavy meal and then compromise it or meet up your daily requirement by skipping the next meal. You can't balance your balance sheet by doing that. Skipping a meal, doing a detox after your festival is not going to help. So if you've had a heavy meal, enjoy it, but then get back on track from the next meal itself. The moment you start taking care of your health and taking charge, everything is going to fall in place. The guilt is not going to help you. The skipping of meals is not going to help you, nor is going on a detox diet. You may feel better for some time, but it is going to backfire. Now, how do you ensure that you eat mindfully in the festivals? Very simple. What you do is, during festivals, you make sure that you socialize more. You understand what is on your plate, talk to the elders, understand the history, the logic behind everything on your plate. You eat the meals mindfully, wherein you feel the color, feel the texture, absorb the aroma that comes from the meals, and basically feel good when you're eating a meal. Have connection with the meal. That's how mindfulness is going to come. Don't go empty stomach. That's the biggest thing, because if you go empty stomach, you're hungry. You're not going to enjoy the meal. You're just going to gobble it down because you're starving. Enjoyment cannot happen when you're starving. Enjoyment can happen when you're consciously, mindfully there in that moment. You notice the food, feast on it with all your senses, and then you consume that wholesome meal. So that's how you get mindful there. Can we move to our last question?
Rachna?
See, like I said, there's no way you can overcompensate for if you overate. You can't skip a meal, you can't fast, you can't do a detox. There is no shortcuts to nutrition. I'm sorry to burst the bubble, but unfortunately, there is no shortcuts. Next question, please. Okay, this is a very crucial one. I am a diabetic. Can I still enjoy sweets? Now, when you say you're a diabetic, you could be somebody who has type 2 diabetes or type 1. You could be someone with uncontrolled blood sugars, or someone who has much more control on their blood sugars. Somebody who has a lot of control is very well aware about their HbA1c level, can still enjoy their sweets in moderate quantity provided they time it well. Ideally, avoid eating a sweet with the lunch. If the modak is served with your lunch plate, take it with you, have it a little later as a mini snack, and that should take care of you. Now, if you have very erratic blood sugars, or your blood sugars are too high, that is a time I would recommend your health comes first. I do understand desserts and sweets are important, but pay attention to your health rather than opting for the sweets. Now, you also get sugar-free sweets. Are they useful? I would say no. You don't really know what kind of a sweetener goes in the sugar-free sweets. A lot of these dessert shops aren't aware about naming products. Now, they will call something that has dates and anjeer as sugar-free. But dates and anjeer also have carbs, they also have sugars, and they can elevate your blood sugars. So you're not really having something that is sugar-free. It is table sugar-free. And that also can impact your blood sugars. Also, the sweetener types are variant. Like I had mentioned earlier, that there could be FOS, there could be maltodextrins, there could be glucose syrup. If you aren't aware about the 60 plus varieties of sugar that the food technology industry uses in food products, it's going to be difficult for you to manage your blood sugars. So ideally, opting out of desserts, especially if they are not homemade, is a good option. If it's made at home, I would recommend before the sweetness is added, separate it out and have that, or make a low sweet version of it and have that. Again, like I said, not with a meal, but as a mini snack, and that should take care of you. So that's the main questions that I usually get. Now I'm going to answer all your questions. So please feel free to use the chat box, and we will now take up all the questions that are there.
Before we dive in, I have another question. What
Interesting. Tell
about
me.
the jaggery sweets, which usually I've heard saying, diabetes people can eat jaggery sweets more than the chini. How is it more better?
Okay. So basically, in simple terms, sugar, jaggery, honey, maple syrup, all are siblings from one family. Just one is a little better than the other, or one is a little bad than the other. all of them have very similar calories in it. Why is it said jaggery is better? Is because traditionally jaggery was made in iron vessels. It was made in iron vessels. It was not refined and it was cooked at a certain temperature. So the jaggery that was produced had little bit of iron, it had minerals, it had other micronutrients in it. So people even today assume that it is a rich source of iron. So I'm going to burst a bubble here. Again, jaggery is not a rich source of iron. To get the iron that you need, you'll have to have a lot of kgs of jaggery, and that's when you're going to have a healthy version. Again, the amount of calories in 1 tablespoon of jaggery and 1 tablespoon of sugar is pretty much the same. So you're just having, instead of something white, you are having something brown. Again, third point being, often jaggery that you have got, like I earlier mentioned, 10 shops, there'll be variant colors in the jaggery. So that means one would be bright orange, one would be light brown, one dark brown, one would be black. How do you identify organic? Very difficult. Unless you know how jaggery looks, taste when it's organic, it's going to be difficult. For a lay person, it's impossible. So you're not having authentic jaggery. What you're having is jaggery made in steel vessels right now. So it is literally like sugar. And last, jaggery often is less sweeter than sugar. So now imagine both of them have equal calories, but jaggery is less sweeter than sugar. So instead of putting 1 teaspoon of sugar, you're putting 2 teaspoons of jaggery. You're having double the calories. So how is a jaggery fruit or dessert even useful for you? It's going to still spike up your blood sugars. So moderation is the key, and eating mindfully is the key. And ultimately, your total intake of sugar, jaggery, honey will matter through the day.
Thank
So
you so
have
much.
I answered your question?
You have. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Yeah. We have couple of questions.
Great.
Shruti has asked for recording and the PPT. Recording will be available on YouTube. Please follow our YouTube channel on Surety. You will get it over there. We'll upload it there. And Gaurav Gupta has asked, why can't shops take care of the nutritious value of these delicacies?
Honestly, for the shops to take care of the nutritious value, they'll have to hire us. They'll have to hire at least a nutritionist to go and tell them what is actually healthy and what is not. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people assume dates, anjeer, and other dried fruits are actually healthy. Like now, blueberries, cranberries are trending. Stuff like cranberries, which are innately sour, are actually dipped in sugar. So they also have sugar. So these basic information is not going to be available to a shopkeeper. He is going to look at the culinary aspect of it. And he is going to make a dessert and serve it to you. So unless you're aware or he's aware, it's not going to happen. Today, the FSSAI is making calorie counting and nutritional information mandatory for restaurants and hotels. But even there, if you see now, the hotels and restaurants who are actually implementing it are giving in horribly wrong information out there. So even now, again, here comes the picture or the role of the dietitian. The dietitian needs to be there to help you understand what is actually your healthy, because something that is healthy for you may not be healthy for somebody else. Something that is nutritious for X person may not be nutritious for Y. So what is your goal? And then help you choose what is the right dessert. That is going to help you there. So shops really can't help you with nutritious delicacies. But if you're consuming anything packaged, one thing that can help you is reading the ingredient list. Ingredients on the ingredient list are generally written in a descending order, where the ingredient that is most is written first and least is written at the end. So if your packet starts with sugar, jaggery, then cashew, almonds, matlab usme sugar zyada hai. If it starts with almond, walnut, nuts, or besan, ragi, and then goes to sugar, that means those ingredients are more than the sugar. So that's your first indicator whether you want to opt for that kind of a dessert or no. Secondly, you want to look for any of these fancy sugar terminologies. I understand lay people may not understand it, but maltodextrin, sucralose, Google it up. Kuch nahi to. Figure it out. What is it? And see if you really want to have something with all of that sweeteners in it. And you can make informed choices. Then you go to the nutrition table. First, don't go to the nutrition table. When you go to the nutrition table, check for mainly two things. One is the sugar. If you have blood sugars, look for the added sugar part and look at the fat part of the nutrition table. And lastly, look at the sodium content also, depending if it's a savory dish that you're purchasing. And that should help you if you're buying packet food. So one of the packets that I was doing my research work for this talk today, it literally showed that one modak gave 350 calories. But I had to sit and calculate it. This is not something some layperson would do. They would look at it and say, okay, this looks good because it has nuts, ghee, sugar, color, that's it. But that is where reading label becomes super important.
Yeah. We have another question. Vinod has asked, is it possible to share a diet plan for people like us who works on computer from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Super difficult. Each person is absolutely unique. Their physical requirements, habits, food culture, medical reports, everything is different. So even if I give a diet plan, one that is generalized, it's still not going to work because it is not going to work for everybody because everybody is unique. But if you are somebody from who works in a corporate job, like you said, 11 to 8, just a couple of tips that I'm going to give is fix your meal timing. Have a breakfast, have a lunch, have a dinner. Understand one thing, you need to eat because you want to work and not work to eat. What most people do is have a very light breakfast, a rushed lunch, and a heavy dinner. The first thing that you change is reverse that. Have a decent breakfast if you're not a heavy breakfast eater. Have a proper lunch and not on your desk, away from your desk, so that you mindfully eat your lunch and then have a light dinner. You don't want a heavy dinner because you're not going to use all that calorie. You're going to just go and sleep. When you don't need it, why do you need a heavy dinner? Even if it means a lot of people say that's the only time we get with family. Do some other activity. You don't need to sit and eat. There are so many fun things that you can literally do. So eat time to time, eat balanced meal. You already have the balanced meal plate that I showed you. Remember, your plate needs to have some vegetables, some protein, and some grain, and have a good option of healthy snacks. There are a range of snacks which are beyond wafers, chips, biscuits, vada pav, and samosas. You can opt for those. If you have that list handy, trust me, the basic work is done. This is about food. Make sure you have enough water. And most important, get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Today, the largest complaint that I have about corporate people is they don't sleep enough. And they catch up on their sleep on the weekend, which is absolutely wrong. It doesn't work that way. So I hope I've been able to help you. And if you still need a diet plan, you can always come to me. I do take consultations.
Yeah. Vinod, I hope she has answered your question. We have another question from Santosh. I'm a bachelor. I don't cook. How can I include fiber food? Can you please help me here?
Oh, absolutely. So if you're a bachelor, I think it's a great time to learn cooking. You don't need to learn complex master chef type cooking. What you basically need to learn is basics of cooking. Make sure you know how to cook rice, some lentils, or get your protein, and then manage your vegetables. If rice is not possible, you have other options. Don't go to the rotis first because they're very difficult to make. You have a lot of millets that can be cooked like rice, so you can have those. As for the fiber intake, fruits, vegetables are going to be your best friends. And that's also another reason where I mentioned millets. Millets are also whole grains, so having them, they're super easy to cook provided you soak them well and cook them like rice. So they are a great source of fiber. So typically, you at least need to have 2 servings of fruit a day and at least 3 servings of vegetable a day, minimum. And by the way, vegetable does not mean potato. I need leafy vegetables. I need other vegetables. Tindi, bhindi, flower, gobi. Sab chalega. Not potatoes. Only potatoes. I hope I've answered you.
Yeah. Moving on to next question. Knowing the components that are not good for health, I fail to pick anything. I'm not sure this is a question, but yeah.
Um, I think I get what you're saying, Gaurav, because the information out there is too much and it's very easy to get overwhelmed with all the information. Trust me, if I'm being very honest, everything has a side effect. If you do it extra, it's going to cause you trouble. If it's not suiting you, it's going to cause trouble. So I would say take all the information with a pinch of salt. Do what works for you. You don't, like I said, every person is unique. Just because something is bad or an XYZ blog said it's bad, it may not be bad for you. Like currently, it's trending that wheat is bad. No, wheat is not bad. Wheat is okay for anybody who can tolerate it. If you are allergic to wheat, if you're sensitive to wheat, make sure you have some other variety. And India has a lot of grains available. So just because you're missing out roti doesn't mean you're not going to get your nutrition or you're not going to get any other option. What we need to do is probably just, I would say, when you're in the situation where you find it difficult to fail to pick anything out because you think everything is not good for your health, you want to step out of the box and see at the bigger picture. When you're looking at a dish, see what is going to be helpful for you. Like, since we're talking about modak, a steamed modak is rice, jaggery, coconut. You know, it's 3 things. But if you buy the same modak as a chocolate modak or a dry fruit modak or a fancy baklava modak or a Puran Poli modak, what do you think is more that you understand? I think the rice, jaggery, and coconut is something you would understand. You know it's bad, so you won't have 4 or 5. You'll have 1 of it. So that's still okay. You make a choice. You make a choice where you're choosing best out of the worst, in simple terms. And that's all most of us are doing because today, if I have to talk as a nutritionist also, uh, the kind of soil that we have, the food that we're getting, the nutrition in the food, everything has some or the other issue. You don't want to worry so much about the bad components and increase your health anxiety. There are enough things that can make you anxious and stress you out. I personally feel as a professional that one thing I don't want people to have is food anxiety, a fear about food. I want you all to be aware and make conscious choices rather than being afraid of choosing something. You should be confident in saying no, and you should be okay with saying yes. But you should know your whys. That's more important. I hope I have answered you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aditi, for the insightful session. It was a pleasure having you with us today, and I'm confident that our audience gained valuable takeaways. A big thank you to everyone who attended the webinar. If you want updates on health and wellness or our future events, follow our Onchority page, or you can visit www.onchority.com to know more or contact us. Once again, thank you, Aditi. Thank you, Rachna. And thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
joining us. I'll see you in our next Wellness Wednesday webinar. Until then, take care. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.